What's going on, good people? Rich here, host of the Culture Garden podcast, here for another episode 95 to be exact. We're churning along. Shout out to Ray P, Rachel. Hope you're doing well. Miss you this week. But Rachel had no interest in talking about the film that we're going to discuss today. So I called the person that I knew would be perfect for this film. Culture Garden family, this is your fourth episode?
That sounds right, yeah.
House Party, No Country for Old Men, Drumline. Yeah, this is your fourth episode.
Yeah.
If you hear his voice, that's Brian in the background. Brian, what's going on, man?
How you What's feeling? Up, everybody? Thank you, Kyron. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day to those who celebrate. We're recording this on July 1st.
We are recording this on July 1st. Brian and myself have been sending Happy Bonilla Day texts for some years now. Speaking of which, this is in celebration of it, this is the last year that the Cincinnati Reds owe Ken Griffey Jr. So we made that final payment today.
Congratulations. He's been retired for how long?
Yeah, since 09. I can't remember, but he had been like our fourth highest member of payroll for the past however many years. I might be getting the numbers wrong, but the fact that we were still paying up until this year is ridiculous. The man is in his 50s. He's in the Hall of Fame already, and he's still getting checks from the Reds. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day to all those who celebrate. If you don't know, please look it up. Please Google it. It is something. I mean, if you want to talk about the American dream, that is it right there. That is it right there. So, Brian, before we even get started and I get into the pleasantries and all of that, when we, I had my boy Spike Lou on the episode when we recorded the Town, and you were gearing up for an Ironman competition. I know things didn't necessarily go as planned due to the weather, but we had mentioned it to the audience. So I want to just take some time and ask you how you're feeling, because that's a huge task.
So you guys got a lot wrong with what you were talking about. Let's not call it an Ironman competition. Let's just call it an Ironman triathlon, or just an Ironman, or a half Ironman is what I did.
All right.
Triathlon meaning 3, so there was 3 events.
No,
you guys were kind of wavering back and forth about that. So it is a swim, a bike, and a run. So I was up in Canada for the Mont Tremblant 70.3, which is the 70.3 represents 70.3 miles across the 3 distances. That's a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and a half marathon. Things didn't go quite as planned. I woke up Sunday morning and it was torrentially downpouring with like 55 mile an hour winds. Didn't even get a chance to get in the water to swim. People were being pulled out of the water. I talked to people after. People were in tears about how bad it was. Thought they were drowning, pulled into boats. Boats and kayaks were capsizing because people were freaking out trying to get in them because the chop was so bad in the lake. So a good start to that. I walked back to my bike because I'm told, hey, you guys can still do the bike and run. Mind you, this was in a mountain town in Canada. So think of elevation at about 4,500 feet. Think of crazy mountain descents with turns and curves with an inch or so or 2 of water on the road. So I biked about 10 miles, was on a downhill, and just stopped and got off my bike and like waved for an official to like send somebody to pick me up. I'm not doing this. Like it was done.
It's not worth dying.
No, not at all. So good thing is they're giving me a free entry for next year. So nice. I'll be back doing it next year. And have a couple other things planned, but I appreciate the shout out, and yeah, we'll see what happens with the next Ironman competition.
Or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, whatever we decide to call it next year. Oh, I haven't asked you this yet because I wanted to save it. First, was this a midlife crisis?
Oh, 100%. Are you kidding me?
Okay. I see, the people out there listening don't know you as well as I know you. And I know everybody reaches a point where you just have to search for that next thing, right? Just that next, what's this outside of, my daughter, the family, what's going to get me out of bed?
100%.
This was it for you because, I mean, like I said, knowing you, I don't know if I've ever seen you as dedicated to something other than being a smartass.
Yeah, this was it. And so it's something I've always wanted to do. But just like, shit, it's a lot of work. And as you know, I wasn't always in the best shape. Like I played sports in high school and stuff, like was in decent shape into my early 20s. And then just, it all fell apart.
30 years ago.
Yeah, not quite. It all fell apart. So funny enough, I was at a party last Memorial Day and was drinking all day. Like just one of those days where like, it's just perfect. It's just everything is going down perfect. I was talking to a friend of mine who I know had done the same race, but in Boulder, Colorado. I was talking to him. I'm like, yeah, man, it's something I want to do. I was like, we should do one. Let's like, of course, like 16, 17 drinks in, like 10 hours. I'm like, good, I'll do the swim right now. Like, and he's like, all right, let's do it. And then Kelly, of course, was there and his wife were like, all right, we're going to hold you to it. And I was like, okay. So the next day rolled around and, you know, woke up to a text from him and he's like, we're still doing this? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I went to a doctor and was like, hey, I need to figure my life out. Like, I'd like to live past 45. And they're like, all right, you're not going to do that in your current state. So I kind of flipped the switch. I started swimming, stopped eating like a fucking raccoon and like dialed in my diet and just made it a habit every day. Like get up and swim, get up at 4 o'clock every day, swim, bike or run and lift. And that's where we're at. So like I said, it was kind of a midlife crisis, but also kind of like something I wanted to do. And it was just a matter of like flipping that switch, I guess.
I have a million other questions. I'm not going to ask them right now because, you know, people came here to talk about a movie. But I will say in all sincerity, watching you for the past year get up and make that shit happen. Seriously, Brian, like so inspiring. Like, because I know it would be different if you were Nate. You know what I mean? And
yeah, no, 100%.
You know, in that kind of build and frame and just, you know, active, but you weren't. Like you kind of went cold turkey and just said, you know what, I'm just gonna change my life. And you did that every single day, and not just normal stuff where you just, hey, I'm gonna walk today or I'm gonna post a picture of my smoothie. You're on the bike, you're in the pool, you're doing everything. So it was really inspirational for me to see. Obviously, it meant something to me just knowing you, being able to call you a friend and a brother. And I'm proud of you, man. Even though it didn't go as well as planned, or the weather didn't hold up, I know that you're going to have another crack at it. I know you say you're looking for something local or nearby, and maybe not local per se, but nearby. So genuinely happy for you, proud of you. You did inspire me to get my ass back in the gym and really get to it because I had let myself go a little bit, started to, with the move and everything. And I'm like, nah, I got to. If Brian can do it.
I mean, right? Yeah. Just takes that. It takes, you know, 1 or 2 times. You just got to build that repetition. But no, man, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. But with that being said, we are here for another episode of the Culture Garden Podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in. If you are listening, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Google Play, or you are watching on YouTube, we appreciate all of you. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. If you like film, if you like television, please subscribe to the feed. Speaking of television, we got y'all. It's television podcast ran by Rachel. Rachel, we just wrapped up The Chi this past weekend. We'll leave that where it may. There will be a new season, and I will tell you that we will not be covering it. So that lets you know everything that needs to be said about the past season of The Chi. We have also started House of the Dragon. Brian, you've been watching House of the Dragon?
No, I have. I didn't. I watched like the first episode of the first season and was like, oh, I'll just binge it, and then just like never got around to it. But it's on the list.
Understood. Well, we're having fun with that. We will have episode 3 up Wednesday of this week, which would be yesterday if you're listening to this on the release date. So yeah, the timeline's a little bit messed up, but it is what it is. There will be spoilers today and explicit content. I always chuckle because this film that we're covering today is 40 years old. And this was the first of 7 Eddie Murphy films to open #1 at the box office. We are talking about none other than Beverly Hills Cop, the film that made Eddie Murphy an international superstar, I would say, and just kind of changed the whole trajectory of how famous can a person be. Just skyrocketed. So the synopsis of the film: a freewheeling Detroit cop pursuing a murder investigation finds himself dealing with a very different culture of Beverly Hills. This is my choice to pick it. Actually, I've chosen this for a while. Every now and then I like to structure episodes based off of sequels or events, similar to how we did Bad Boys. Beverly Hills Cop was one that I was on the fence. I kind of knew Rachel didn't like it per se, or probably wasn't going to be gung-ho to do it. So as soon as I knew that, like I said, I hit up Brian, just asked him, hey, you down to talk Beverly? I think the text said that, hey, me, you, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Sign me up. How are you, before we get into the stats and things like that, how are you feeling about Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which releases on July 3rd? It should be out by the time you listen to this podcast. What are your thoughts on it?
So it can't be worse than Beverly Hills Cop 3. I think we agree with that, right?
There's no way. Absolutely no way.
It's tough, man. Eddie Murphy's had a rough few bad feet. Like, it hasn't gone well lately. I don't know.
I'll tell you my fear. I don't want another Coming to America situation.
Yes.
I don't even have the word. I'm not even going to try to come up with the words for what that was. That might even be worse than Beverly Hills Cop 3. I don't know. It's up for debate. I do feel better.
Is you've got Rose Warden-Taggart coming back.
Absolutely.
I like that aspect that they're bringing them back.
You got Jeffrey coming back. Paul Reiser's character.
Yeah, like, it should be decent, right?
It can't be. All right, so I was explaining to people about my experience seeing Bad Boys 4. And when you build a franchise, the best thing you can do is have people invest in the characters, right? You're not going for the film. You're going to catch up with your friends. I've mentioned this before. That's why a lot of the shows, we talk about Sopranos. And somebody said this, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they were just talking about how when you rewatch or binge a show like that, it's kind of catching up with your friends. Mm-hmm. Like, what's going to happen, but it's, hey, haven't seen you in a while. What's been going on in life? And just like in real life, usually it's the same old
thing. That right now is The Bear being back.
Yeah.
Like, that's the perfect analogy. They're like, oh, I'm catching up with these guys I haven't seen in a little bit. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is for me. I don't go into these situations with high expectations. They're at the basement, and if I'm surprised, then I'm surprised. Same with Bad Boys 4. I said it was an entertaining film, and I specifically chose that word. I did not want to say it was a good movie because at this point, they can't be good movies. They do what they're made to do, which is action and entertain. You're catching up with your buddies. You call it a day. It's almost like being in your 40s or 50s and having a guys' weekend, realizing that you can't do this shit anymore.
Can we be clear? I'm not in my 50s. Like, you've made a few jokes about that already, and I just want to make it perfectly clear to the audience that I am early 40s.
Yeah, I got to every single time. Every single time I have to. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am looking forward to it. Like you said, Rose Warden-Taggart being back, Kevin Bacon's the captain, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I'm a fan of. He's going to be a big role, or maybe Axel's sidekick, whatever the case may be. Sarge is coming back. So I think we got a lot of good things that are going on. It's just more so about how they execute.
I'm going to say it. I think it'll be a great airplane movie. It'll be a good flight movie.
Oh, absolutely.
You turn it on.
Matter of fact,
I will probably be watching it in 2 weeks on a flight to California. That's probably what I'll reserve the time for. So I'll be able to sit and watch it and figure it out from there.
I'm definitely going to watch July 3rd. Like, I will be watching July 3rd, and I'm going to hold off my judgment. I'm not going to say anything to you about it until you watch it.
All right, yeah.
Unless it's absolutely terrible.
Please.
But I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be. I think
no,
it'll
like
be
we said,
decent.
I think it'll at least be decent.
And the reason, like I said, we won't spend any time at all talking about 3. But do you remember them trying to make this into a television show?
Not really. So it's funny because I know I texted you about Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah, we're gonna have that. We'll jump into that conversation.
Anything, but
yeah,
how recent was that television show?
2013. The pilot was filmed. The pilot was filmed in 2013. Brandon T. Jackson.
Yes,
was
that's okay.
Aaron Foley. I believe his name is Aaron Foley, actual son, trying to get out the shadow of his famous father in Beverly Hills. The pilot tested well. And there was a bidding war against the 4 major networks. And for some reason, it just never found the light of day. But it tested well enough for them to say, hey, we still have life in this franchise. Let's go ahead and develop a movie, which is how we got to Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, the new one that we're getting this week. I did some digging. The pilot episode is on YouTube. It's 45 minutes long.
Is it?
It is. It has French captions. I will put it in the episode description, and I will send it to you, Brian. I started
send it to me.
I watched the first scene, and I'm intrigued to see where it goes. It's only a pilot, but I am curious to know where they were going to take it.
Okay.
But apparently, it was good enough for them to greenlight the new film. Let's talk about some stats. The film was released in theaters December 5th of 1984. Once again, it will be 40 years old this year, which is insane. Directed by Martin Brest, who also directed Sin of a Woman and Jiggly, one of Brian's favorite films.
Top 5.
The screenplay and story were written by Daniel Petrie Jr. He is also, the story was also written by Danilo Bach.
Hold on. Martin Brest, you forgot Midnight Run.
No. I wasn't. I'm coming back to that. I'm circling back.
Sorry. My apologies.
I got a special game for you that we'll get to that we like to play here. A game of this or that. And we'll definitely do that here.
Okay.
I love the excitement because we love Midnight Run.
It's so
Midnight Run is incredible. It's Midnight Run episode. You might as well book it. Brian will be here.
Yeah, no, that's 100%, man.
The film had a budget of an estimated $13 million. And this is stupid. What I'm about to say is stupid right now.
This is nuts.
It grossed just over $316 million worldwide.
In 84.
Yeah, we're not even talking inflation. I think I looked up the numbers and we're like at 690 million. Don't quote me on that, but it was ridiculous when I looked it up.
So that's not even the stat I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to talk about how much he made for this.
No, I don't even know that. What's that? What did he make?
$13 million budget. $4 million went to Eddie Murphy.
That's right. He did make only $4 million.
He made $4 million of the $13 million budget, though.
Which is just shy of a third, which is insane.
That's nuts
when you think about it. I wonder what those numbers look like for the second one. Because there's no way he didn't get a cut of the gross or anything like that.
Oh, I bet he made points.
He had to make buku money. And I was wrong. I lowballed it. If you adjusted those numbers, $730.7 million is what it would have made in today's age. So just shy of $1 billion for an R-rated comedy, which is, Brian, I'm sure you'll agree, it had every reason to fail. Like this is not a good script. It has no business being a good movie.
No.
Let me finish these stats real quick because I got something even more that this is, and I know part of it is recency bias and the day and age we live with. We don't go to the theaters as much anymore. The box office numbers aren't as prevalent when you literally spent time at the theaters in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Even early 2000s. But it opened up number 1 at the box office, right? It stayed number 1 for 13 weeks straight. 3 months and a week, this film, with plenty of other films coming out in that time frame, was number one in the box office. I don't even know how to quantify that or say that without. I think the only other film we've covered that had numbers like that was Home Alone. You know how hard it is to be 13 weeks number one in a row.
It's incredible. You can't compare what happened in the theaters in the 80s and 90s to like the show's number one on Netflix right now. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not even close to comparing. You can't quantify how they're alike because they're not.
Get your newspaper. You open up that section where all the theaters are.
Yep.
You check the show times. You might call the theater just to verify. There is no seating arrangement, no reserved seats, no none of that. You get there early to sit where you want to sit.
Yep.
No stadium seating, so you better not sit behind somebody tall. And you just laugh your ass off for the next hour and 45 minutes. I just think that 13 weeks in a row, because you know there's multiple people seeing it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
This is entertainment. This is what people do. Week 14, it went to number 2. And then week 15, it went back to number 1. I mean, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but you guys get what I'm saying. It stayed in the top 10 for the first 28 weeks. Beverly Hills Cop was the top 10 movie for the first 28 weeks. It was in the theaters for just over 8 months. Highest grossing film in 1984. In the whole year, not just comedy, not just R-rated, the highest grossing film in 1984. And I already talked about the numbers as far as if you change them for inflation. Highest grossing R-rated movie since 1977.
So this movie came out, you said December 84?
Yeah, December 84.
Highest grossing movie that year came out in December.
Yeah. Stupid, right?
3.5 weeks left in the year.
Yeah, stupid.
Nuts. That's incredible.
Doesn't make any sense. And that's just the star power of Eddie Murphy. If you want to watch the film, it is currently streaming on Netflix and Paramount Plus. As far as awards, it had 7 nominations and 5 wins. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Writing for a Screenplay, which is comical.
That's funny.
That's comical, right? The fact that it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Screenplay is comical in itself. It was nominated for Golden Globes, Best Picture, and Best Performance by an Actor for Eddie Murphy. This movie had no business being nominated for any kind of serious awards.
No.
Once again, all credit to Eddie Murphy and his comedic genius. I'm not sure if you knew this. This film won a Grammy
for
Best Album of Original Score, 1986.
Okay. So Faltermeyer.
Yeah. Axel F, the famous that was only written as like a throwaway for the banana and tailpipe scene. Like that arrangement, whatever you want to call it, I'm probably using the wrong word. That score, it was only used for that part of the film. Like, it was only supposed to be there. And something happened where they needed to fill in blanks for the rest of the film. And then it ended up becoming one of the most popular theme songs.
And they lean on it hard in the rest of that.
They lean on it.
Yeah.
They lean on it tough. They lean on it very tough. Also won a People's Choice Award for Favorite Motion Picture. As far as the cast goes, we have Eddie Murphy as Detective Axel Foley. Lisa Eilbacher? Maybe I'm saying her name right. Jenny Summers. I always wonder what happened to her. She stopped acting in 1995. And I'm just curious why. I didn't really do a deep dive, but she was somebody that I just thought was going to be around. Almost like Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah, she just looks like the 80s, right?
She looks like the 80s. Exactly. This whole movie, before we go even further, it screams 80s.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not almost to the point where if you didn't grow up watching 80s movies, it might be difficult to watch.
I was thinking that watching it, that it'd be hard. I have a 23-year-old little brother, and I think it'd be hard if I was like, "Hey, Robert, I need you to watch Beverly Hills Cop." He'd be like, yeah. This is rough to watch."
Yeah, you had to grow up with it. I will say that much. We have Judge Reinhold as Detective William Billy Rosewood, Ronnie Cox as Lieutenant Andrew Bogomil, John Ashton is Sergeant John Taggart. James Russo is Michael Mikey Tandino. Gilbert R. Hill as Inspector Douglas Todd. He was a real-life homicide detective.
Mm-hmm.
His only acting credits are the 3 Beverly Hills Cops films. And then we have appearances by Paul Reiser as Jeffrey Friedman, Bronson Pinchot as Serge, depending on who's saying it. Jonathan Banks, who we all know and love, his career resurgence in Breaking Bad. But he was Zach, and Damon Wayans had a small role as Banana Man. A lot of people forget that Damon Wayans was on Saturday Night Live, like after Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
He ended up getting himself fired in order to go to A Living Color. But Brian, I have an important question for you. Classic or not?
Yes.
It has to be, right?
100%. I only hesitate because it may be not as good as I remembered, but I have not seen this movie in a while.
Interesting.
And I know we've touched it twice. I'm going to hit it again. I think just Beverly Hills Cop 2 is better.
All right, we're gonna get to that here very, very soon. Very soon, we're gonna get to that. I'm gonna go through the origin of
this. Is to hit your question. This is for a lot of people where Eddie Murphy became Eddie Murphy, right? This, they may not have watched Saturday Night Live. They may have heard of his stand-up, but this is where he was introduced to a lot of people.
Yeah. It's the one that made him a star. This was the one. That's took him somewhere else. You look at his career up until this point, and 48 Hours, Trading Places, Delirious, Saturday Night Live, which is enough, right?
Yeah.
That's enough.
People would kill to have that.
Well, that is why you get a third of the budget to do a film like this. I don't think anybody expected him to take it where he took it. And we'll even talk about some of the people that were considered for this role and how this movie came about. And then we'll talk about first experiences, and we'll have this or that game, and we'll talk about Beverly Hills Cops too. Because I literally texted you. I said, "Oh, Tony Soprano voice," because I was not expecting that. But I'm going to say my thoughts. So it's 1977. Don Simpson. This is a Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer film. We talked about it when we discussed Bad Boys, that they just have an affinity for shitty scripts and making the actors do the work, because Bad Boys was in a similar vein. Just an awful script. They ad-libbed most of that on the fly. It was written for Dana Carvey and
John Lovitz.
John Lovitz. And we rehashed that if you go listen to our Bad Boys episode. But Don Simpson, he's an exec for Paramount. He has an idea about a cop from East LA and transferring to Beverly Hills and that whole fish out of water aspect. The cop was originally named Ellie Axel, and he was from Pittsburgh. The continuity and the writers, they started looking at ideas and said, hey, you can't transfer from East LA to Beverly Hills. Like, you have to actually quit the LA Police Department and join the Beverly Hills. That's not a transfer situation. That's not how this works. So there are a lot of issues with the script and a lot of back and forth stuff that they couldn't get off the ground.
But Don Simpson was doing so much cocaine at the time that he just
we once again, I tried to spare Don. I put it nicely. I just said Don was a wild boy. I told the story about Dana Carvey, the reason he backed out of Bad Boys. He spent a weekend in Vegas with Don Simpson and said, absolutely not. This guy's crazy. He's a madman.
Yeah.
Don Simpson was he's a party. He liked to have fun in his own way. Let's just put it like that. Coked out in the 70s and 80s, back when cocaine was as simple as cigarettes for some people.
Yeah.
That's just how he got that. But Jerry Bruckheimer, who's also his partner in the production company, he stated that this role was first offered to Mickey Rourke. Very 80s, right?
So 80s. Like,
he had a $400,000 holding fee. Yeah, he signed. He signed that, and the project just didn't develop quickly enough, and he left it. I'm sure you know one of the directors who was offered
Marty.
This movie, right? Marty was offered. I don't even know. I can't even picture Martin Scorsese directing this. Can
The-
you?
No,
What does that even
no,
look like?
not. It doesn't look like anything because it would never happen. Like, uh, don't get me wrong though. In 80 whatever, when this script was kicking around,
Yeah.
Scorsese wasn't. He was kind of.
Maybe Raging Bull had been out.
He hit a rough spot. Like, he had a couple down years there, but like Scorsese doing this movie, it's like I can't even think about it because there's no way it would happen.
It is kind of comical, especially when you look at it from the 80s perspective. You do bring up a good point in regards to him not necessarily being who he is. Mean Streets, Taxi Driver. Like I said, I believe Raging Bull was out at this time, and those are probably his big, accomplishments in early 80s, late 70s, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and then he lays low until the late 80s. So like that's just not a thing that's going to happen.
No, absolutely. He turned it down because it felt similar to Coogan's Bluff, which is a Clint Eastwood film. If you've ever seen it, I know a lot of people are Clint Eastwood fans when it comes to his westerns. The film felt very similar.
I like
to
his
that,
political views more than anything else.
I was. Shout out to Clint, man. Clint is yeah, he's not a. I don't. Do I want to say he's not a good human being? I don't know. I don't know what.
He's not a great guy.
He's not a great guy.
No, he's not a guy you want to live next door to, and by you I mean like you specifically don't want to live next door. Like
yeah,
I'd be okay.
Yeah, I absolutely do not want to live next door to Clint Eastwood. If you don't know what we're talking about, please Google.
Just look it up.
Just like Brian said, Clint Eastwood political views, or just go watch some of his movies and a couple of the scenes that he throws in modern times. The Mule. Did you ever see The Mule?
I never saw The Mule. No,
I saw The Mule in theaters with my mom, and there's a scene in that movie with a couple of black people having some car problems. We'll just leave it there. Right. Yeah. Sylvester Stallone. Now, this I want to get your thoughts on. Because the movie's already ridiculous, right?
Yes.
So, Sylvester Stallone, he rewrote this whole script.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch Entourage?
No.
Okay. I was going to make an Entourage reference. But Sylvester Stallone wrote this whole script. He took all the comedy out of it. He made Mikey Sandino his brother. He made Jenny Summers his girlfriend, his love interest. That's only Sylvester Stallone would.
Yeah.
And just kind of butchered the whole thing to the point where Don Simpson, who we talked about earlier, as just being out there and zonked out. Even he was like, I don't know.
Yeah, Don Simpson was like, this is ridiculous. Then,
it's
truly nuts.
Absolutely. His name was going to be Axel Cabretti. Which that's just one of those things you laugh at. That's just got Stallone written all over it.
That's his name in Cobra.
Well, the reason, so there's this story that can't be confirmed, but it's something about Switzerland and the studio like tricking Sylvester Stallone to take this role over in Switzerland or do some kind of project over there. And once he went, like 2 days later, they started working on Beverly Hills Cops again, right? Sylvester Stallone took the stuff that he wrote for his version of Beverly Hills Cop, and like you said, Brian, he turned it into Cobra.
Yeah.
A good chunk of Cobra is his Beverly Hills Cop script.
And that's exactly what the movie would have been. And we wouldn't be talking about Beverly Hills Cop right now if whatever Sylvester Stallone did would have actually happened.
I'm glad that it didn't. It would have just been another Sylvester Stallone movie.
Yes.
Or, like you said, it would have been Cobra. We see what it looks like. He made the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He made the movie. That's a good point. Richard Pryor, Al Pacino, James Caan were all considered for the role of Axel Foley. Harrison Ford was actually offered the role, but he turned it down. Martin Brest was not interested in making this movie at all. The studio kept bugging him. It got to the point where he flipped a coin. He literally flipped a coin and just let that coin decide if he was going to direct this film or not. Obviously, it landed on the correct answer. The film made so much money that he took that coin and he framed it as a remembrance of the decision to make Beverly Hills Cop. And it spawned 3 sequels and a pilot.
So back to what you were just saying. who else? Who in that time period? I don't even want to say could make the same movie because I don't think anybody else could make this movie the same way as Eddie Murphy did.
Mm-hmm.
But who would even make this movie similar in that time?
I think who they offered was the right answer. I think Harrison Ford.
You think so?
He's the closest. Yeah. I think he takes he mixes Han Solo with some Indiana Jones.
But do you do
turns
it
into a cop and calls it a day because he's witty. Harrison Ford is witty. It's not cool though. That's the thing.
I think you have to do it reverse then.
In what way?
You would have him come from Beverly Hills to
Detroit.
Detroit.
Damn, you're onto something
which is essentially what Beverly Hills Cop 2 is supposed to be.
So I've never thought about that, but that's a great point. You do have to. I think it would be an interesting story for him to fish out of water is always going to work for me. I'm always
100%. Oh yeah,
I'm in. But to see him kind of Rocky 3 it, I guess, for lack of better terms, that would have been interesting. Hopefully not as racist as Rocky 3, but it definitely would have been interesting. Now I'm thinking, Harrison Ford, I'm trying to think who else in the 80s could have done this because you have to have you have to be quick, very witty. You have to have a little bit of coolness. See, that's the thing. Nobody, and like I said, even though it's 84 and you look at it today and it looks very 80s.
So the list I'm looking at that I think could do it, but eventually got their own vehicle to it is Mel Gibson.
Fuck him.
I understand. Fully understand. Let's talk pre what was out on Mel Gibson though. In 1984 Mel Gibson. Michael Keaton. Keaton could do it.
Keaton definitely could do it. I like Keaton more than Harrison.
And then if it was anything other than a cop, Robin Williams could have done it. I can never ever look at Robin Williams and think police officer.
I don't know, man. That's the thing.
He's fast. He's quick, but he just like he would never be like, yeah, Robin Williams is a really.
Is it? I know this might sound crazy. Is Robin Williams underrated? I think he's underrated.
He is an underrated actor, and I think his stand-up is a little overrated.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm strictly talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as an actor, he's underrated.
Huh. I don't see Robin Williams. We can toss that out. Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is the one. This might sound a little silly. Ted Danson?
Maybe.
He's got the look. I don't know if he has anything else. Let me throw this one at you. Travolta.
84 Travolta?
84 Travolta.
I prefer Harrison Ford Keaton over 84 Travolta.
That's fair. I'm not mad at it. It's just the 80s were an interesting time. You had a lot of heavyweights, but not a lot of people that could fill this lane. Because this wasn't, I don't know. We'll talk about it here in a second. When we play this or that game. Do you remember your first time watching this film? Do you remember your first experience with Beverly Hills Cop?
The first one, I don't.
Yeah. You remember another one?
I remember the second one, yeah. I remember Beverly Hills Cop 2. Like, that movie was a movie of my childhood, like, which we'll get into when we talk about that in a second. But, like, Beverly Hills Cop 1 came out in 84. I was 1. I probably saw this movie at a very inappropriately young age, though.
Mm-hmm.
I probably saw this movie when I was 5, maybe 6.
You
Um,
saw a lot of movies at an inappropriate age.
I saw a lot of these types of movies when I
You
was
saw
young.
House Party at a young age.
I saw House Party at a young age. I saw Terminator 2 in the theater when I was 6.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
like
crazy.
a ton of movies like this I saw at a
Shout
young
out.
age.
Speaking of which, I just got to shout out Spike. I mentioned him earlier. Spike saw Basic Instinct in the movies with his mom and her boyfriend at the at the age of 9.
that beats my best one was I saw Seven in the movie theater with my grandma when it came out. So I was like 11. Nothing will beat Basic Instinct with that. He wins that by far.
Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite movie theater experiences because they didn't. We mentioned this is. I guess we can talk about nostalgia and all that, but if you weren't really going to the movie theaters in the 80s and 90s, you kind of just don't know like that experience. It really wasn't a lot of social media, and I see this trailer everywhere. If you didn't catch it on the commercial, there were people who literally just, oh, I know this actor. This movie's playing. I'm gonna go see it without having any idea.
Oh my gosh, Michael
what it was
Douglas
about.
for Romancing the Stone. Let's go see this movie. Like that's what that is at that time.
That's what that was, and they didn't know what it was about, and just mortified in the theater.
Oh my god, I'm sure that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But yeah, so I don't remember the first time I saw it. I do remember seeing it a lot, and I have a funny Beverly Hills Cop story that I'll tell in a little bit. But no, I don't remember the first time, but I remember those two movies were on rotation, man.
So you said those two movies, which makes me want to ask you directly: did you watch Beverly Hills Cop 2 more than the original growing up? Like, not even close?
Yeah, not even close.
Okay. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that very soon. For me, I have no idea the first time I saw it. It was definitely in the 90s. It wasn't the 80s. And that's even crazy to think about because when you think of 94, 95, the film's only 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
Right? It's still younger than what Departed is to us today. Right? Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. So it's one of those films when you start so Eddie Murphy for me, my Eddie Murphy started in Nutty Professor, right? I was 9 years old when Nutty Professor came out. That was kind of the Eddie that I knew. I knew about Boomerang, Brian. We talked about it. I know you had the soundtrack at home.
I had the soundtrack.
Which is still random. So I knew him from like the Boomerang poster, but the first time I saw Eddie Murphy and was like able to watch one of his films was Nutty Professor. And then I remember my dad bought this VHS of like best of Eddie Murphy's Saturday Night Live. Right? And I never forget the skit when he did Whiteface.
Yep.
And wanted to see what it was like to be a white man for the day.
Just go ahead and take the paper.
Just take it. Take it. Shoot him on. I just thought that was comedy. The comedic genius behind it. It made me want to learn more about Eddie Murphy. And you get into your 80s Eddie Murphy. And Beverly Hills Cop is, of course, the one that everyone says start out with. Have no idea where I saw it. I know it was on VHS or DVD, one of the two. No, it had to be VHS because this was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Not fully understanding what it was, but knew that, hey, this is something that I want to watch. And I remember my early teens, I revisited it and was able to get the jokes, was able to put everything together. And I just was like, all right, this is one of those movies for me. This is one of my background movies.
Yep.
If I'm doing something, working on something, I will put this on in the background. If I'm trying to go to sleep, because I have it on DVD, I'll put it on and I'll call it a day. Can't remember exactly when I saw it. Like I said, the film's older than me, but it is what it is. Brian, I've been waiting all day to play this game with you because I want to get your thoughts. Every now and then when the situation fits, we'll have a game called This or That, where I will simply just put Beverly Hills Cop up against the movies that I'm going to name, and I just want to hear what you think. This is going to be the Eddie Murphy 80s edition.
Okay.
With a bonus. And then I want to have the Beverly Hills Cops 2 conversation.
Perfect.
So, Beverly Hills Cop or 48 Hours?
Beverly Hills Cop.
48 Hours is one of the most comically racist movies. Shout out to Good Earner, where we talked about The Sopranos. We had this conversation a lot about the non-harmful racist, like the racism that's so blatant and all you can do is laugh. Like, God, like you're that fucking racist. My goodness. 48 Hours is that, and it's 1982. It's almost to the point where I'm surprised Eddie Murphy even like was able to tolerate Nick Nolte and some of the shit he was saying in that movie.
I tried to watch that movie again. I saw it in my teenage years. I tried to watch it a couple of years ago, and I just don't like Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte's got a very punchable face.
Nick Nolte, I feel like in real life, is his character in 48 Hours with a mixture of his character in the movie Warrior.
And sprinkling some blue chips.
Yeah.
Nick Nolte that is who Nick Nolte is.
Yeah. He's not acting.
Yeah, I just really think that's who he is. Some people do too good of a job playing a certain role to the point where I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you're too good at this. Yeah.
Roll out of bed and do this. Yeah, that movie's a miss. 1982. Shout out to the 80s. Beverly Hills Cop or Trading Places?
Trading Places.
Trading Places is very... Is Trading Places a Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I think, yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop... Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Beverly Hills Cop or Coming to America?
Personally, I'm going to go with Beverly Hills Cop.
You know I'm going Coming to America.
Yeah, and that's fine.
That's one of my favorite
films,
if not Eddie Murphy film. What's the bigger movie? Absolutely, it's Beverly Hills Cop. But if I'm picking them out in the lineup, Coming to America is going to win that one for me. Beverly Hills Cop or Harlem Nights?
I have seen Harlem Nights once, and it was a while ago. So I'm going to have to go Beverly Hills Cop.
I would love to get your thoughts on Harlem Nights.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Yeah, I was going to throw the Golden Child in there, but we don't have to do that. I do want to ask you one quick question. This isn't necessarily a movie; it's more character. Axel Foley or Reggie Hammond? Reggie Hammond, his character, for those who don't know, that's Eddie Murphy's character in 48 Hours. He's a criminal who is helping with a cop investigation. Kind of does a lot of the same things that he does in Beverly Hills Cop.
They're similar characters.
I think his scene in 48 Hours at the bar is one of my favorite movie scenes of all time. When he's at the country bar. I don't know if that's the original or the second one.
I think Axel is... I think he's a great character. I think the shit he does and the shit he pulls off in 1 and 2 are just so ridiculous, but like the charisma's there where you might believe it.
I was just about to say, you took the words literally out of my mouth. It's so ridiculous that you almost believe it.
Yeah.
So in the scene, I don't want to jump ahead, but I just want to point this out. Because I just had this conversation with someone over the weekend. And we were talking about like taking snacks in the movie theater. And I'm just like, just take that shit in. Like, just have it out in the open, just take it. There's no need to sneak. Because here's one thing I want to remind everyone. People don't like working at their jobs. They don't take that shit seriously, especially the movie theaters. Like, nobody's going to go out of their way to tell that you brought a snack in to the theater.
No, nobody cares.
They just won't do it. Nobody cares enough, right? And I think about the scene in this movie where he goes to the members only club. And like he's trying to tell this guy to give Victor Maitland this message. Like the guy doesn't care enough about his job to give him that message. Like you go in there and tell him, like you can get away with what you want to if you have the confidence to do it. And 100%. Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley is the definition of that in some of the stuff that he does in these first 2 movies. I got 2 more for you. One I already know the answer to. This one is the Martin Brest question, which I told you we'll get back to. Beverly Hills Cop and Midnight Run.
Midnight Run.
Serrano's got the disc.
Man, De Niro's so good. Fucking, what's his name? God damn it, what's his name?
More on number one. Put more on number two on the phone. Are you talking about when you're trying to figure out? Are you talking about the gangster? Or are you talking about Charles Grodin?
Grodin, thank you. Charles Grodin's just,
these things go down.
He's just perfect.
Yeah, Charles Grodin is good in that. John Ashton, who plays Taggart in this movie, he's in there.
He gets knocked out no less than 35 times in that movie.
Yeah, Dennis Farina. So that's the type of shit when I say it's so 80s. Like that stunt only works in the 80s. And then of course the late great Dennis Farina, Jimmy Serrano. Just if you haven't seen Midnight Run, please
go watch it. It's a tight hour and a half. It's not going to take up too much of your time. It's hilarious. It's a fantastic movie.
It really is. It really is. And then lastly, Beverly Hills Cop or Beverly Hills Cop 2. You've already mentioned that you're taking the second one. We got to talk about this because I've shared that sentiment for a long time. Where 2 is just more of a complete movie. Like they knew what they wanted to do in 2, right? They knew the beginning, middle, and end. You can't watch, in my opinion, you can't watch 1 without watching 2, even if they're not back to back. Like you're going to circle back to it within the week. Like I
was watching 2 before we started recording.
I watched 2 today as well.
Yeah.
I'm torn on if I like it better than the first one.
Okay.
Let's hear your Beverly Hills 2 Cops. Like what is it about it that makes it?
So again, 2 could be a nostalgia thing. I remember 2 just being on in my house. What did 2 come out?
87.
87? Okay. So yeah, I was
3 years after
a little older. I was 4 years old. So naturally at 4 years old, I was watching rated R action comedy movies. So this movie was on a ton. It was me, my dad, and my older brother. My uncle that you met at my wedding was a Cleveland police officer in the 80s. He was the one that introduced me to all things action movies. My dad was more on the comedy side of things. So this series was just a perfect marriage. This movie was on so much that my older brother and I would play Beverly Hills Cop. One of us would get to be Axel Foley. The other would have to be Rosewood or Taggart. And it was like, okay,
what
Brian,
the fuck did you guys do?
We would just run around the house, pretend shooting at people. Like it's just things we did. So I just think 2, like you said, it's a better story. It's absolutely ridiculous. Eddie Murphy is turned up to 11 in a lot of the movie. He's much more loud and more of what you think of Eddie Murphy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a little bit better story, but it's also like ridiculous. Like the way Beverly Hills in Los Angeles looks. Like the beginning, Bogomil's running in an oil field.
Yeah, and red.
Like, yeah, it's just like there's just a lot of ridiculous things. But again, it's probably nostalgia. I think the action's a little better. I think the plot's a little better. I think Brigitte Nielsen's as good as you're going to get out of her. I just like it a little better. I think it moves a little bit better.
It definitely does. I'm not mad at that. Like I said, I've shared that same sentiment for a long time because it's more a complete movie. This one, especially when you know the background of this movie and how much was ad-libbed, how much was just on the fly. Like literally there's a scene where the police chief comes out with a rolled up paper and it's a script because he just got handed the script 5 minutes before they said action. And it looks like police documents, but it's literally a script. And when he calls Rosewood Rosemont, he did that because he didn't have enough time to rehearse. That was a real thing, and they just kept it in the theater in the script. Like, so all of this was just patched together and thrown together. 2 wasn't. Like I said, they had the idea. It does move better. I have to give it. I'm hard on it because it came out in the 80s, and that's how 80s movies were. Where I think if it's made today, you focus a lot more on that alphabet killer and kind of the schemes and the riddles and really trying to crack that case. Where that was more so just like a subplot. They didn't even need that really for the movie. And they figured it out pretty quickly. It's an 80s movie. For an 80s movie,
that's a great gimmick for a movie, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that would be good if it was set in its own universe.
Yeah, I would watch that today.
Yeah,
without question. So I don't know if I can give it to fuck, man. How do I want to say this? Because you don't get to 2 without 1. But 2, I feel like 2 took everything 1 did well and just kind of enhanced it.
2 should have been better. 1 made so much money that if 2 is bad, you're like, oh, like this is just kind of a flash in the pan situation.
Yeah, but it's not bad.
No, not at all.
Isn't bad. It's a pretty solid sequel. You know what? One day we'll have a sequels episode. Maybe a sequels bracket or something like that. We'll talk about greatest sequels of all time. Maybe not greatest because that's a very short list. Sequels that are better than the original. But just fun sequels. Like sequels that could be in the conversation. I think Beverly Hills Cop is worth it. So, all right, that was fun. Maybe by the end of this episode, I'll figure out where I'll land on it. But one quick question before we get into best scenes. This is a new category. You have not been on the show since we've added this in here. Movie Poster Hall of Fame.
Oh,
does this make the cut?
Fuck yes. This is iconic movie poster. 100%.
I'm not going to say it's the movie poster of the 80s, but it's up there, top 5.
Dude, I'm looking at it right now, and it is
Eddie Murphy on the red car with the gun, doing the people's eyebrow, the Mumford physical education shirt, the Adidas. Like it's. If you're growing up in the 80s and you're a kid or a young person, you want to be that guy.
Could you have closed your eyes and described the poster?
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I guess that's the answer, right?
Yep.
That's the answer. Yeah.
No, it's a great movie poster.
Without question. I'm putting it in the Hall of Fame as well. Much better than the second. Even though I like that Detroit Lions jacket that he wore in the second movie. Really a fan of that Detroit Lions jacket. But it just seemed a little bit makeshift. Standing next to the Beverly Hills sign, all of that stuff. The third, like I said, we're not going to talk about. All right, Brian. Let's get into the movie. Let's talk about best scenes. You are a guest. We're going to talk about these best scenes. You'll go, I'll go. We'll try to keep it chronological. So if you have a scene that I jump ahead to, or what should I say, if I have a scene and you have scenes in between, we can back up and go through your scenes and talk it through. But I'll go ahead and let you start.
Man, the open of the movie. Like, no like, problem. Don't get me wrong, I think it's like 7 or 8 minutes of unnecessary long car chase.
Mm-hmm.
But just the cigarette truck, the things Eddie Murphy's doing, the way he's talking, the things he's saying, man, it gets off and it just explodes.
Don't I know you from somewhere? Nah, man, I'm from Buffalo.
Yeah.
Like, just stupid shit like that. The
100%.
The cigarette scheme, the scam, whatever you want to call it. Perfect introduction to what Axel Foley is. We talk about all the time on the Culture Garden where we like the intro scenes to kind of show us what we're getting into. And you just know right away from this car chase, from the cigarettes, that Axel Foley is just color outside the lines by any means necessary. Whatever I got to do to get the bus, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to do it my way. Problem with authority. I feel like I'm really good at this job, and everybody would be better at that job if they did it my way.
Yep.
Versus the whole Beverly Hills we do it by the book. But all the improv, the truck chase, it's just comical, even for the stuff that's not supposed to be funny, like the way movies were shot. When the cops pull up and the other guy just takes off running, and there's no music or anything, he's just going on foot. Like, all right, here we go.
Well, I'm out of here.
Yeah, very 80s. Everyone at the end of that chase realizing, they got the whole police department out there with their guns drawn, and then Axel pops up, and they just put their guns down. Like, I should have known it was you.
Yep.
It's just, that's how you introduce a character. Like, all right, I know right away that this guy's bogus. Like, he's on some trash. Which leads me into my next scene, which would be us meeting Inspector Todd. Axel enters that locker room with Jeffrey. Inspector Todd's looking for you. He said this was your worst fuck up of all time. I personally don't agree with him. Is that fucking Foley in here? I can still hear it in my sleep, the way he enters that scene. And Brian, I don't say this facetiously. I hope this isn't like something that gets me laughed out of the room. I really think, what's his name? Gilbert Hill?
Yep.
Once again, he only acted in these Beverly Hills Cops movies.
Runner-up for Detroit Mayor in 2001.
Yeah, lost to Kwame Kilpatrick.
Yep.
Kwame Kilpatrick has his own problems if you want to Google him and his political career. But I don't say this facetiously, Brian. I think that if you take him and Samuel Jackson and you have a motherfucker contest, I don't know who necessarily comes out on top.
No, man. I was thinking, because, again, today watching part of Beverly Hills Cop 2, how he is at the beginning of Beverly Hills Cop 2. Like, he's great. And he is aggressive and voracious the way he speaks. That's a tough call.
He's the guy that I don't want to do anything today. My goal for today's shift is not to piss off Inspector Todd.
Yeah.
Like, the last thing I need in my life right now is Inspector Todd just up my ass,
screaming at you.
And you just picture people like that. I just picture, what's your life outside here? What is your life? Are you okay? Like, are you similar to like Rosewood asking or telling Taggart about, you eat a lot of red meat? Like, you should probably, watch your cholesterol, all that stuff. Like, it's just one of those, like, man, I'm kind of worried about you, the way you carry on, because that's what Inspector Todd is. The mayor called the chief called the deputy chief just chewed my ass out. You see, I ain't got a bit of it left, don't you? And just Axel Foley, once again, when we talk about characters, getting reamed out, taking it seriously, but not serious enough, and still having the wit at the end of the
At the end, yep. There's still a little bit there.
Chief ain't to it all out. You still got a little ass there. Don't fuck with me, Axel. Not now. Like, just that seriousness. Like, not today is not the day. I'm not playing with you. And Axel is good. You're a good cop, but you're not worth the headache. Like, I really will fire you. I don't care what you do. Like, all of this shit that you're causing is not worth it. But if you shut up and listen, you might have a good career in front of you. Scene was incredible. Like I said, Inspector Todd, he steals the show for me. What's your next scene?
Sarge.
All right, so let's back up some. We got to have this talk. Briefly.
Are we going?
Mikey
I think
Tandino.
I know where you're going. Okay.
Mikey Tandino. First and foremost, what was he planning on doing with those German barrel bombs? Like, what was his plan? Like, what like, did he just, was it show and tell?
This is why the second one's better.
Okay.
Because
so you don't have loopholes like this.
Because this part of the movie, you're just like, okay, he gets out of jail. He's in Beverly Hills. He breaks into Axel's apartment and he has X amount of millions in bearer bonds. Yeah. He's like, hey, take a look at this. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What are you doing with that?
Yeah. Makes zero sense in the movie, right? But
none.
There is. All right. I just want to know if you've ever looked at it like this before. And you probably know where I'm going. Mikey Tandino, Axel Foley, for those who don't know. Back when this movie came out, even before it came out, actually, and they ran this for test audiences, there were a lot of mixed reviews about the I Love You scene. And there are people, actually, I've never heard about this until 2015. And I actually know it was 2015 because I was headed to your bachelor party. Like Ben was on his way to Toledo to pick me up to go to Columbus.
Yeah.
When I first heard about is Michael Tandino Axel Foley's lover, it disturbed audiences to the point where the studio asked Martin Brest to take the scene out because the audience was confused on if they were friends or if there was something more going on. He didn't take the scene out, obviously, but he trimmed it and edited it a lot to kind of just make it seem like a brotherhood thing. Did you ever once, because I never thought about that until I first heard somebody say that in 2015. But did you ever once think of them being an idol?
So
that's something that the internet just ran with?
I knew you would bring this up. I'm glad you brought it up. So when we talked about doing this, I went back and listened to the rewatchables, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah. Wesley Morris is where I heard this from.
Wesley Morris brings it up. And they talk about,
I guess for fairness, just for full clarity, Wesley Morris is a gay man.
Yes.
Who brought this up. I just want to kind of full context. I just want to
friend of the podcast, Wesley Morris.
Yeah. Shout out to Wesley, man. Big fan of his work, honestly.
So never thought about it before I heard it, but rewatched it after listening and hearing it. And there are signs.
You look at it differently.
There definitely there are signs, and you can take things the wrong way.
Yeah.
You can take little things Axel does or doesn't do in the movie.
He brought up the Jenny Summers.
Yeah.
Jenny Summers is in your hotel bed, just laying there.
But you can take that, but you can also, this dude's best friend was just killed.
Yeah.
He's there to do something. He wants to figure it out. I see both sides of it. Personally, I was disgusted. No, I don't.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
It's a joke, everybody. I don't think that's what it was. I think it was a brotherhood thing. But I can see absolutely, and you could probably convince me otherwise.
Hold on real quick before I even say my point. When I was recording Good Earnest yesterday, shout out to Maurice and Spike, we were referencing one of the episodes of The Sopranos. It's actually the finale. When something awful happens to one of the characters, and Janice and Tony are at Janice's house, and they're having something. And Janice said something, just very dark humor. And she looks at Tony and says, "You're the only person that would understand that that's a joke. Like, you're the only person in the world that understands." And I just laugh because the way you just said that, I know exactly. And it's just spot on to who Brian has been from the moment I met him in 2008. The dark humor, the all of that is just spot on. But I bring all that. The only reason I can bring up the Mikey conversation is it's just fascinating to me how you can watch something countless times, and all it takes is one person to say one thing, and you're like, damn. And I'm not saying that I think it was that, but like you said, there are just certain things that you look at, like, since this is in my head now, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. I still don't think it is that. I just think that as somebody who grew up with a lot of friends and values brotherhood, and doing anything for your friend, brother, whatever the case may be,
100%.
That's just what it was to me. So it was interesting to see people flip it. However, like I said, this isn't Wesley Morris' original take. Even in the 80s, when they did the test audience and they did the test screening, audiences had mixed reviews because they weren't sure what was going on. And then you add in the Jenny Summers. And I think that's why they're very specific in Beverly Hills Cop 2. When you have Axel and Jan Bogomil, I think her name was Jan, Bogomil's daughter. Like, a lot of the kisses on the foreheads, a lot of the, I don't know. It's just something there in that whole conversation. Just thought it was interesting from a cinematic standpoint to discuss. because it is a part of this movie and it is something that is mentioned in today's age when you discuss it with all that history that's coming out about it. So just wanted to bring that out. But what pisses me off more is even like we talked about earlier, the German bear boss. What was your plan, my man?
Well, it's just not even a good character. It's tough because
he's a vehicle. You need him. He's a vehicle.
You need him, but there's like zero emotional attachment. Like
I don't care that he dies.
I don't know who this guy is. I don't care that he's dead.
Yeah.
In Beverly Hills Cop 2, they shoot somebody that you're familiar with and end up liking through Beverly Hills Cop 1.
That's a good point.
Michael Tandino, you're like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
He showed up, he's eating a sandwich, leaving the refrigerator door open. 10 minutes later, they're back at Axel's. He's wasted and he gets, spoiler alert, shot in the back of the head. Like,
yeah.
Who is this guy?
Yeah. Interesting. No, that's a good point. Moving on to scenes, you mentioned it because this is my next scene as well. Sarich. Jenny gets to Axel. Axel goes to be Jenny Summers and we meet Sarich. Go ahead, Brian.
Man, Bronson Pinchot, you may know him as Balki Bartakamus from the show Perfect Strangers. Or many of you have probably never even heard of this show. He is so good in his 2 small scenes in this movie. The get the fuck out of here scene is just
get the fuck out of here.
It's just so good. Him and Murphy.
Oh, really? I made it myself.
Him and Murphy just play off each other so well. When that dude walks up with his shirt open and he's like, you need to button that up.
No, that's not sexy.
It's just so good. He plays that role perfectly. And it was this role he got a sitcom out of it. He was in this movie for 3 minutes, and that's what the 80s were like. You could be great in a funny movie for 3 minutes and get a sitcom out of it. Just fantastic.
He was so good that the guy that we just talked about with the shirt open,
yep,
they were supposed to be like together in that film. As far as like both of them were supposed to have speaking lines, and it's supposed to be a big thing. And Bronson as Sarich just kind of stole the show, and it was like, all right, we don't really need you anymore. Have your quick cameo where you come in, but we're just gonna let Bronson take this one over. He almost quit the movie. Production was taking so long that he had other things that he was like, because he's wasn't a well-known actor. So I think another opportunity came up, and it was to the point where like if there's no decision made about what's going on, I'm gonna have to leave this. And thankfully he didn't, because it really was one of the all-time heat checks, one of the all-time scene-stealing moments in a film. Just the way they played off each other, the improv, it was just so natural. Can you tell Jenny that Ahmed Akwel, and then he doesn't even attempt the first name again. Like Axel says, Axel, he's like Foley. Yeah, Foley is here to see her. The espresso with the lemon twist, all of that. We don't see him. That's the only thing I will say about the second one. We get robbed. He does show up in 3. And he is in the pilot, if I'm not mistaken. He's on the cast, the 2013 pilot. I'm going to send you.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
Yeah. So he's in there. I don't know what he is, but yeah. So after that, I have Axel getting thrown out of Victor Maitland's office.
Yeah.
So not necessarily the visit or the talk with Victor Maitland about what happened to Mikey. It's more so literally Victor Maitland. That's our first time meeting him. You can tell he's like this mystery Inspector Gadget type of criminal. You just expect him. No, you expect him to have like a white cat on his lap, and he's just petting him the whole time. He's just that kind of like evil, genius, diabolical. He just looks that way, and he carries the part. Even being able to press a button in your office and you have 3 secret doors open up with 10 different men coming out to escort you out the building. And literally, like, and I've watched this movie so many times that you start forgetting how ridiculous some of the things are. Like, why would you throw that man out of the window?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that?
I completely forgot they threw him out of the window.
You threw him out of a window. Like, a window that you're going to have to take care of and the building's going to have to pay. Somebody's going to have to come out here to replace this. It's a big ordeal. It's just a big mess. It's unnecessary. Well, I throw them out the window. I get it's for the film, but it's just over the top, and it's always cracks me up. And then Axel just sitting there, like, what the fuck just happened? And then the cops pull up. He's like, "Did you see this shit? I can describe all of them."
Yeah.
And the cops like arresting him, and he get disturbing the peace, the famous disturbing the peace. Like, what do you get somebody throwing at a rolling cart, jaywalking? That whole thing, and that obviously flows into him at the police station when we first meet Rosewood and Taggart.
So yeah, that's what, like a 10-minute stretch.
10-minute stretch. The whole I've never been in a police cell with a phone in it. I ordered a pizza.
Yeah.
Like, can I stay here a little bit longer? And then him looking at the phone like, somebody will eat it.
He's just full on Eddie Murphy in this whole stretch.
He turned it up to full notch. Full on Eddie Murphy, like you said. Why didn't you identify yourself as a police officer when you got arrested? Because I was minding my own business, which is something I would have said. Like, literally, like, I got thrown out of a window. I'm not answering any questions. Like, fuck yeah. Like, what are we talking about? I got 6 witnesses say that you broke into place and you started tearing up the joint. Like, you believe that? Like, are you serious? Where the fuck you get off arresting someone for getting thrown out of a window? The Taggart punch, filing charges, just the look of disbelief that Axel had.
Yeah.
Once again, that fish out of water look. Like, are you serious? Like, why would I file charges against a cop? Like, where I'm from, we don't do that. I loved everything about that.
No, that's a great stretch. And this, I think we're getting into, once he gets to Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
I think that first, it's that first 20 or 25 minutes of that. And, we skipped when he goes to the hotel. And the Michael, he's doing the
Michael Jackson,
on Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And he's screaming, and it's just, that's a sign of thing to come with Eddie Murphy, I think.
I'm glad you mentioned it. Real quick. We know how it played out at the end. What was his game plan for that hotel?
I thought the exact same thing. Like, what was he going to do?
Because you can't ask the police, you can't ask Beverly Hills PD to foot the bill.
No.
But what were you going to do? But once again, this is the 80s. Completely different time. I 100% believe Axel Foley could have talked himself out of that bill or done something in a scammer way to make sure he didn't have to pay for it.
I would have preferred that to the clean, lazy writing of Beverly Hills PD is going to pick this up.
To this day, Brian, I've never heard of a police department picking up a hotel tab for somebody who tore up their entire city. To this day. It's ridiculous.
No, it's highly unlikely.
Makes zero sense. Banana in the tailpipe.
Yep.
Nothing else to say other than banana in the tailpipe. That's just a classic scene. And this is what makes, I really think this is what makes this franchise what it is. We talked about it earlier. Some of this shit is so ridiculous. And it's almost like, I can kind of see it happening. Like, if they came back to the station and I was there, if I was dispatched, and I saw them come back and heard that story, I met that Axel guy earlier. I can kind of see it.
He can pull that off.
Yep. He's got the moxie. He's got the charisma.
He's just
ridiculous, but he did it.
But it's just like I'm not even going to say street smart, but like he's just smarter than everybody.
Yeah.
Like he knows what to do. He orders the room service for him.
Yeah,
gets it out there. And it's a great scene that again just shows that he's just steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, and that carries on throughout the entire franchise.
100%.
It's like the old, like I said, fish out of water. You sophisticated Beverly Hills folks, you guys don't know about the street tactics that I've learned in Detroit. You don't know about if we go to Beverly Hills Cop, you don't know about chewing the gum and taking the foil and disarming an alarm. You don't know about coffee grounds and how they're used to cover up drugs. Like, I think he even said it in the strip club, like, you guys don't know nothing, huh? They just give you a gun in the bag to tell you to figure it out. Like this shit is just silly. He can't believe it. You're right. The whole Beverly Hills sequence is incredible. Specifically, I want to highlight the bonnet warehouse.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite scenes because once again, you have to carry yourself in a way that I belong here, like I'm supposed to be here. The people that get caught are the ones who look suspicious.
Yep.
He literally walks in like he owns the place. Like I am this inspector. I'm really supposed to be searching for this thing. Ask the security guard for a match, then ask for a supervisor. You know, what's the problem? You're my fucking problem.
You don't know who I am. This guy gave me a match. Yep.
Yeah. You get the match and he looks at him. He said, listen to me. I do security checks all over the nation. And with the exception of Cleveland, this place has the worst security in the nation. You got to love Cleveland just getting shots and digs, especially when Detroit is involved, because the Detroit-Cleveland rivalry of who's worse.
I mean, hilarious. When they were showing Detroit, like, I didn't realize Detroit looked that bad still, even in the 80s.
Yeah, Detroit. And like, Detroit's one of my favorite cities today. Like, just their rise. Like, I love Detroit. Shout out to Legends and all the hardworking women at Legends. You guys are all appreciated. But I love Detroit. That's all I want to say.
No, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
This segment's been brought to you by the Detroit Board of Tourism.
The him going through all, like, just, I know I keep saying it. I don't want to keep reiterating it. I see Axel Foley having the supervisor of this bonded warehouse dig through files and hand him information because he seems believable. And once again, it works for the 80s because you don't have a cell phone. You don't have Google. You're not just looking stuff up. It's the middle of the night. I'm not calling my superior. Like, this guy's down here. He seems official. He seems legit. He knows what he's talking about. Like, is that your Porsche out there? Are you hiding something from me?
Yeah.
Like, just the way you can tell this is the director. This is Martin Brest coming up to Eddie and saying, hey, man, we got nothing. Do your thing. Like, make this work. Here's the scenario. You're in the bonded warehouse. You're trying to get some information about these bonds.
Take it from there. Just figure it out. Yep.
It's 1,000% what it was. And that's what makes it even more impressive because it's not, we said it earlier, it's not supposed to be this good. Let's see, what else do we have? The strip club scene.
Yeah. Just him showing.
All-timer.
Yep.
All-timer. Him getting in the back of that car, realizing like, hey, Beverly Hills is different because they dock you pay for losing me.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I've never heard of anything like that. I'm sure that's what Axel Foley was thinking. I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to go to this place and get a drink. You guys might as well come with me because you know I can lose you. We've already done that. We might as well be friends. We're all cops. Like, the food was I've been on the stakeout. I know what it's like. We don't drink on the job. That whole thing. And Axel just being like, fuck it. You can't, your dick can't get hard when you're the boss. Like, the whole segment is insane. And just Axel, once again, Axel being smart enough to read the room, just have that detective instinct, like to look at a situation and say, something's not right. Yep. It's the middle of June in LA. Why is this guy in here with a trench coat at the strip club? Like, that just doesn't add up. It just doesn't make sense. Getting Taggart to go along with him, the shoulder dance that he was just doing all of it, the whole scene from top to bottom is incredible. And I'll hand it over to you because this scene leads into probably one of the best improv scenes in movie history, the Super Cops.
Super Cops, man. I texted you this watching it on an airplane home from Atlanta Friday morning. Losing my shit, man. It's such a fantastic scene of Eddie Murphy just being Eddie Murphy and people around him just not being able to handle it.
When you think about middle of the night, exhausted, been filming all day, you're slap happy, have no idea what's coming. Like, there's no dialogue, there's no real script. And Eddie Murphy, just off the top of his head, on a whim, comes up with this story. I'm in there enjoying the show. I'm having a good time. I'm into things like that. These guys, I don't know what you guys teach them out here, but not just regular cops. They're super cops. And of course, the actor who plays Taggart.
John Ashton.
You see him, John Ashton. You see him pinching his nose. Like I can't. He gives the I can't believe this guy look, but in reality, he's laughing his ass off and trying not to
If you
break
were
character.
watching him and only him in the scene, he is losing his shit the entire time.
He said he had to put his hand in his pocket and pinch his thigh.
Judge Reinhold had to do that.
Oh, Judge Reinhold did.
Judge Reinhold had to pinch his leg to prevent himself from laughing, and John Ashton was just head in his hand, just laughing.
Yep. And the fact that they kept it together, enough to really get this take.
Just think that was probably their best take.
Probably was. It had to be. Because this is ridiculous. And then you can, like, there was a famous story on set about Eddie Murphy not taking anything, like, just doesn't believe in, like, any enhancers. And that's not just drugs, that's even goes down to caffeine. He did not drink coffee, but he was so tired that he drank caffeine. Drank a cup of coffee for this scene. And when you watch it and you look at his eyes, you just count how many times Eddie Murphy's blinking. Like, that caffeine is really kicking in. And everybody's just out of it. And he makes this incredible improv scene. One of my favorite moments after you texted me, I text you back like, guys, just want to let you know, the Super Cop story was working.
Yep.
You guys just fucked up a perfectly good lie. I'm trying to figure you guys out. I'm not there yet. But I feel them, because if I just came up with that on the spot, like I just saved this is the story. Just go with it. Trust me. Nobody's going to double check. And just that good old Beverly Hills Cop way. Like, now we do everything by the book. Here's what happened. Like, you guys are just fucking it up. And I love the fact that Bogomil, this is when you start, this is the point of the movie where you realize, like, okay, then these guys are, like, they're starting to be on the same team.
Yeah.
Like, Bogomil's not the hard ass. He appreciated the humor. And you want to be around people like that. Even if I am the serious person, if I can appreciate your sense of humor, I can appreciate your bullshit.
100%.
Then we can go anywhere. Like, there's no way I'm putting this in the report. But the fact that you came up with that and you're really trying to protect these other cops, I appreciate it. And really, past this, you can talk about the members only scene, just because I think that's the one time when you really realize like Victor's not to be fucked with. Like, he tells
members only scene has my favorite comedic line in the movie. At the valet.
Oh yeah. That's a great line. I'll let you deliver that.
He drops his car off. He hands his keys to the valet, and he goes, "Make sure to put this in a good spot. All this other shit happened last time I was here." To his busted ass car, and the delivery of it, and his face. It is just the perfect delivery of a hilariously understated line that is just so good.
It's the owning your truth. Like, I know my car's fucked up.
Yep.
It's also I'm serious enough to not crack a joke. I'm not crack a smile. So that delivery, like you said, I'm dead ass serious. Like, all of this shit happened last time I was here. Make sure
so good.
And you just walk off and do your business, and you just leave the guy looking there like, what? Like, he's just shaking his head like, okay, he's shaking his head like, yeah. Like, he really meant that. Like, it's just something about people who are, I've always said, the funniest people are the ones who aren't joking.
Yeah.
The ones who are dead ass serious. And he carried it that way in this scene. And then, like I said, Victor Maitland, he told Axel, like, you don't know who you're fucking with. I forget the guy, Jonathan Banks' character. I think his name was officially Zach, even though it was never said in the film.
So you said that you think this scene is where you realize how bad Maitland is, but like, I think you also get a taste of like Axel can do some shit too.
Yeah.
Like, he actually shows some, the physical side a little bit, tossing that dude around the table a little bit.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, this is actually pretty decent.
And he gives the warning. Like,
yep.
Get the fuck out of my face, man. Like, I'm not coming here to mess up the day, but if that's where you want to take it, we can take it there. Like, I just want to let you know I'm on. And that all he really wanted was, I just want to let you know that I'm on to you. Like, I'm walking in here knowing I'm going to get arrested. Knowing that you guys are going to kick me out. I don't have any evidence. I'm not here to do anything other than tell you, I know you're into a lot of crooked shit. And as soon as I can prove it, I'm going to fuck you up real bad. And that's just what it comes down to. And I don't know if you have anything else, but honestly, the last 30 minutes of the movie, This scene is like 39 minutes. And then you go through 9 minutes more in the last 30 minutes of the movie. I'm telling you, it's just for the 80s, exactly how you want this movie to wrap up.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, man, this movie, that first scene with the cigarette truck, there's maybe 6 minutes of dialogue, but that chase is like, I think it takes you to minute like 11 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a ton of wasted time.
Yeah.
And then the end is like, shit, there's not a ton of action in this movie. We better lay it down in the last 30 minutes. We better have a lot of guns, a lot of machine guns, and just a lot of crazy shit for the last 30 minutes of this movie. Because a question for you I was going to have is like, is this an action comedy? Or is it more, I don't want to say a mystery, but like more of a detective, like crime movie than an action movie?
No, it's definitely a detective crime movie versus action. There's not a ton of action here.
No, there's really not.
I don't know if you consider the character of Zach being thrown into a buffet, if you consider Axel Foley getting thrown through a window, then if that's what you're counting as action, sure, but it's not your traditional.
It for the first hour
last 30 minutes. Yeah, it's a. I know this guy is guilty. Let's figure out how we can prove it. That's what this movie is. Whereas 2 is an action movie.
Yep.
2 was an action movie.
Yeah, you have Don Simpson looking like Jack Nicholson in The Departed and figuring out what 2 was going to be about. But no, that's just something I was thinking about because I thought I remembered a little bit more action in the first one that actually took place.
Don't come up until your face is numb.
Yep.
Yeah, no, the last 30 minutes, and it's in true form. The reason I love this movie so much is because you don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Like you don't have those expectations of like prestige. It's not like you're watching Godfather.
No, like you know what you're getting. You know you're gonna laugh every 3 to 5 minutes.
I know they have 3 guys with machine guns, and for some reason they just can't hit these. They can't hit these guys in the yard. I know none of these bullets are gonna hit them. I know the old school single frame shot of me. I got the pistol and I'm shooting 2 shots, and then falling over the balcony.
Yep.
Like all of that is just prevalent in this film. But you get the Axel and Jenny getting busted by Victor Maitland at the warehouse. Billy saving the day. Jenny being kidnapped. Them breaking into Victor Maitland's to save Jenny. Taggart had some great lines in that. What the fuck am I doing here? But just kind of that Murtaugh that I'm too old for this shit.
Yep.
Just kind of that whole attitude of it. Like I shouldn't even be here. Billy, great comedic. And this is when I think this is one of those scenes when you roll it over into 2 because Billy is great in 2. But they're in this middle of this shootout and he's just loading up his pistol. Like, you know what I'm thinking about? The last scene of Butch Cassidy. Like, I always think about those type of things. Like if I was the other person there, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
Taggart's a great, like, he's probably only supposed to be like 32 in this movie. He looks 50.
There's no way he's only supposed to be 32. There's no way. I can't know. Hell.
It's the 80s, man.
Absolutely not, man. Hell no, man. Yeah, and then obviously the chief comes and they tell us a big lie, or Bogomil tells the lie. Taggart goes with it. Everybody's happy. They go home. Inspector Todd gets a call to clear up all the confusion. I love when the chief pulls up. What's this man doing here? Bleeding, sir. I just got shot. Like, what are you talking about? And then getting the rose. Money's no object. Put it on my tab. I know a perfect place to grab a drink before I head out. Just, you knew. If you didn't know, I'm sure you knew by the end of that movie, there's going to be a second one of these.
Oh, 100%.
And
John Ashton was 36 when this movie was made.
No, it wasn't. In real life?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
He was born in 48.
Wow.
Dude, the 80s were wild.
Wow. How old was Judge Reinhold?
13. No, he was. Let's see.
He was 36. My man, I thought you was gonna say 48. That might have been a stretch. 48 is probably a stretch. 46 probably does it for it. I can't believe that. That's ridiculous.
So Reinhold is 11 years younger.
So he's 25.
Born in 57.
So that makes more sense. But
yeah.
Damn, that's a big. Damn, that's crazy. All right. Best quotes. I think I said all of mine. I don't have anything else written down. I said all of my quotes when we talked about the scenes.
Yeah, I have mine. All this shit. All this other shit happened last time I was here.
Yeah, best quote. That's the funniest line of the movie. The delivery, everything about it. Who's your scene stealer? I feel like there's only two choices.
I got Surge.
Yeah.
And that one dancer at the strip club. No, Surge is my pick.
I'm going Inspector Todd, man.
Shit, yeah, you might be right. I apologize. You might be right.
Inspector Todd. It's tough, man, because they're really neck and neck. Because both of them, when they're on screen, you pay attention to them and you want more.
Is he the perfect pissed off captain in an action movie?
People talk about Ice Cube being the whole running joke is the stereotypical pissed off police captain, and they talk about him in 21 and 22 Jump Street.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is
right. Like this is the guy.
Like I said earlier, I want to know about your life outside of work. Like, what's going on with you? Like, why are you so angry all the time? Is that fucking Foley in here?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he wins. Something you touched on briefly that we didn't really get into. Damon Wayans' tiny role. Well, what was that supposed to be?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Was that just like, hey, do whatever you want?
Yeah, like the rest of this film. Let's do whatever you want. I forget who. Eddie asked him to be in there. Like I said, there was some kind of history between them. But yeah, it was very random. This was his acting debut, or theatrical debut, should I say. And he's literally listed in the credits as Banana Man. And it's just one of those things now because of who Damon Wayans is, and he's a huge star. It's just odd seeing him in this. It's no different than seeing Chris Rock in Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the ballet guy at the Playboy Mansion. So, I don't know. Sometimes, it's just him putting the young black comedians on. Shout out to Eddie Murphy, passing the torch and all that kind of good stuff. What else do I have? All right, so as far as categories moving forward, before we get out of here, things that bother you. I have a few things written down. We've already discussed the movie, so they're not to be taken seriously, but I do have some things that just bother me, no matter how
I think
prepared the movie is.
We agree on the bearer bonds. Just that
bearer bonds made no sense.
Just that's just an 80s plot, man. Like bearer bonds in this, bearer bonds in Die Hard, like it was just a thing. Bearer bonds in Heat.
Damn. Axel brings Mikey home. Mikey's wasted. Can't stand up straight. I credited Axel Foley for his observational skills.
This is a great
just being able to read the room. This guy comes from you, like you're at one point you're looking to where he would have been in your periphery.
Yep.
How do you not see him come?
You turn to open your door.
Yes.
And they're right there.
They're right there. You don't see this coming. Like the same person who, as soon as he entered his building, and as soon as you saw your door, you knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And all of these things that you notice throughout both movies, like you just don't see that this guy's to your left and he's ready Like, once again, something doesn't look right here. These two guys in suits in this shitty apartment building. Like, I have a feeling they don't live here. And this random like guy that just got out of jail or just visited me, after being out of jail for 6 months, that comes up with these stolen German bear bonds. Maybe they for him. It's just something that bothers me every single time I watch it. If it was shot differently, maybe. But the fact that he was right there in his peripheral and he just still got clubbed in the head.
Yeah, like they should have been in the apartment.
They should have been in the apartment.
Not Absolutely. Outside the apartment.
Speaking of Departed, it should have been the ending of Departed. It should have been something like that. Where you just don't even see it coming.
Yeah.
One other thing, or two other things, really. Is Axel Foley really driving that Blue Nova from Detroit to Beverly Hills?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it making it?
That thing, no.
It's not making it, right?
No, not even close.
That's ridiculous. The other ridiculous part, and I get it, when you watch the movie, you have to move it along. When they finally get Axel to open up about, hey, I think Victor Maitland's into some dirty stuff, there's no questioning. Like, Bogomil just says, don't worry about what you can prove. Just tell me what you know. Like, he's just all on board. Sure. The guy that we've been trying to get out of our city for the past however many days comes in with this theory about some famous local art dealer being into some dirty shit. I don't have any evidence. I don't have any proof other than word of mouth and what I'm telling you I saw. And you're just like, all right, cool. Just tell me what you know. We'll see if we can practice it. It just bothers me every single time.
Yeah, the turn is entirely too fast.
Way too fast.
Is the chief of police entirely too old for this movie?
Is this the man?
What is that?
Like, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. And what he's doing. I do like the chief in the second movie because he's such an ass.
Yeah. Are Axel and Jenny Summers really from the same neighborhood?
Not at all. No way. Mikey and Axel, absolutely.
Yes.
There's no way Jenny grew up in that same neighborhood with them.
Yeah, none, right?
I can't see it.
Okay.
I can't see it at all. That's all I had for things about him.
No, that's it. Yeah, those are good ones.
Any actors from The Wire? No. Wouldn't let that happen to me. I don't think this is the movie for that. I don't have anything that I would just say it wouldn't happen to me. Most of the trivia we talked about. I don't know if you have any trivia pieces that you want to add on, but we talked about most of it.
Yeah,
most of the stuff that I was going to mention.
I'm going through it here. Let me look. I think everything I have we talked about.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else special. I mean, there's a lot of information on this film if you ever want to research it, but mainly the thing is this whole script is pretty much improv, and it just goes to the legend of Eddie Murphy. And just let me know. Just if you have anything else, you good?
No, that's it.
All right. So we have reached the end of our episode. We do a rating. We added a new rating system to it as well, Brian. So I'll hit you with both of them. Too high, too low, just right. The average viewer rates this film a 7.4 out of 10. Too high, too low, just right.
I think it's too low.
Too low.
I think it's too low for what this movie is and what it could have been without Eddie Murphy.
This would have been
it's not crazy low. It's a little too low.
Without Eddie Murphy, this would have been another Midnight Run, the TV movie.
Yeah. This is not a good movie.
Not the De Niro version, but the TV movie straight to VHS version.
Yep.
I don't know if we've said this enough throughout this episode, Ryan. This film had no business being as good as it is.
No.
Like, absolutely. It had zero Eddie Murphy and his star power and some good supporting actors with him made this movie into the highest grossing film of 1984, one of the highest grossing movies, R-rated movies of all time. It just, and that's why I'm glad we're doing this, because it is turning 40 years old this year. And the older we get, you lose the moment. You get further away from the moment and how big of a deal certain things were. And the fact that you're still making a movie off this franchise that was 40 years ago should tell you everything you need to know about how big it was. with that being said, 7.4 is low. What did you give it? Did you rate it?
I would say it's closer to 8.
I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna go 7.7. 7.7.
Like I said, it's not like crazy low, but it's like it's a little low for what I think it is.
So real quick before we get out of here, I gotta mention this to you. Beverly Hills Cop 2, 6.5 out of 10.
That's insanity to me. Why?
The fact that it didn't crack 7 is crazy.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm gonna have to see what people were saying because I think that's.
We can always do the sequel. We can always do the sequel. We can have you back for the sequel.
I think we should do it.
Yeah, I'm not upset at that. The last category is still a rating system. So, given that this is the Culture Garden, are you giving it a rose, a bouquet, or the whole damn garden?
Oh shit. A bouquet.
Same. That's exactly what I had.
Because I think
it's not the whole. There's too many holes to give it the whole damn garden.
I'm giving Eddie Murphy the whole damn garden. But as far as the movie goes, yeah, it's a very watchable movie. It's a very 40-year-old watchable movie. There's not a lot of movies you can turn on from 1984 that's going to hold your attention, that you're going to laugh at, you're going to roll your eyes a lot because of how ridiculous it is. But like, the movie kept my attention watching it for the first time in a few years.
That's a great point. For those who haven't done it, just entertain yourself and just go back to the 80s. Just pick movies, not your diehards and not the Terminators, not the well-known ones. Even them you can put in that equation, but just your random 80s movies and just throw them on. We talk about 48 hours. Throw on 48 hours and just see how long you last.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy doesn't even show up for like the first 30 minutes in it.
Yeah. It's a while.
Even movies that I enjoy, like The Trading Places, they're still, you feel the 80s in them.
Movies were slow, man. They were so much slower.
They were. But
they were somehow slower and shorter.
Right.
Which doesn't seem to make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. 90 minutes was a sweet spot. This being an hour and 45 minutes was that's even more crazy, that the fact that they got an extra 15 minutes out of this movie. Probably because of that chase, as you mentioned. It's insane. But Brian, this was a pleasure to sit here and do something that we built our friendship on.
Yep.
We are the original, well, not the original, but we are in some sense, we are a version of Axel and, whether it be Rosewood or Taggart or Bogomil, like just that chance encounter, and then it turns into a lifetime friendship.
We go fishing together all the time.
Yeah, go fishing together, man. Got a big case that I'm working on. But I definitely appreciate you, man. It's always a joy to have you on here. Not your first time, definitely won't be your last time. There's a lot of movies that I want to circle the block on that we haven't gotten to yet, including Raising Arizona. We still got
we got to.
We got to do a lot.
That's another 80s movie. Check it out.
Another 80s movies. There's another movie in mind that Brian absolutely has to be a part of. It's his favorite movie of all time, The Departed. Once we get there, 100% front row seat. A lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. I'm looking forward to having these conversations more with you. For everyone out there, we appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, rate. Shout out to Rachel. Shout out to We Got Y'all. Thank you again for all your support. We will see you next week. Y'all be cool. How y'all be cool. Peace out.